Hello everybody, welcome back to another reading. Today we're taking a look at the case of Cecilia Newball and her son Rene Perez, who both disappeared on September 20th of 1994. At the time of her disappearance, Cecilia was actually on maternity leave because she was 8 months pregnant. And on the morning of September 20th of 1994, her husband Alfredo had actually seen her at the apartment, writing thank you notes for the gifts she had received at her recent baby shower. And then when he came home from work, I'm assuming this was later in the afternoon, he saw his wife's car, a Jeep, parked in the street instead of in the apartment building's secure parking lot. And inside of the car, they found a goodbye card signed Cecilia and the engagement ring and the wedding ring on the vehicle's passenger seat. Both Cecilia and her son Rene were missing. This wouldn't be the last time that he received anything from her, because 3 days later he received a letter from Cecilia, postmarked in Vinoise, California. Now the letter was typewritten, so not handwritten, and it also included another goodbye card identical to the one that was left in her car. In the letter, she stated that she had taken up with a doctor named Arturo and that she and Rene were moving to Honduras with him. And she also claimed in this letter that Arturo was possibly the father of the unborn child. It says here that the police did not believe that the letter was real. Now, of course, I am looking at just one place. I'm currently back at the charlieproject.org because I find that they tend to have the least biased information. One more detail to note is that they didn't take any belongings, not even Rene's glasses. And if you were planning on going somewhere for a long period of time, you were packing up, and glasses, if you need them to see, would be on the first spot of your list of things to take, which makes it even more unusual because if he went to work when he last saw her, that means that she had time without him there to prepare for this departure. So it seems very unlikely that a woman with a young child and also 8 months pregnant would just leave everything in a hurry, grab the child and nothing else, and then run off with a doctor. In any case, I'm not really sure what Alfredo's reaction was to the letter, but it does say here that investigators believe Alfredo knows more about his wife and stepson's disappearance, but he maintains his innocence and says he thinks they left him voluntarily. So I guess that means that he does believe that the letter is real. It says here, friends stated there were no problems in the marriage and they do not believe she would leave without warning, which makes it even more mysterious. So I was asked to do a reading on this case. We're going to start off with a deck that I've only recently acquired. It is the Tarot of the New Vision, which is this one. It has all the usual cards, but then we're looking at the other side of the coin. And for any further questions, moving on to the Urban Tarot, which I really like because it has modern images, which really help connect to modern cases, I feel anyway. So as per usual, I'm just going to start shuffling the deck. As soon as I have about a table full of cards, we're going to stop and take a look. Without much further ado, let's get started. Okay, so we're immediately starting off with the Three of Cups in reverse, and followed by the Sun in reverse and the Eight of Pentacles in reverse. So the Three of Cups is, of course, like a harmony card, people coming together, having a party, just being in agreement with each other. It's in reverse, so I feel like there may be some disharmony after all. Also looking at the grapes that they're holding in their hand right there, which makes me wonder if maybe there was some drunkenness in this relationship somewhere. Doesn't quite point towards whom that may have been, but there may have been some issues there, which may have also caused for some light to be leaving, perhaps some disillusionment as well. And I see that there is a lack of cooperation here. There is actually two people in this card right here. Normally in the Eight of Pentacles you would see one person working away on their pentacles, but you see a second person there now that we're looking the other way, who is working on a statue. So it's kind of like there was a partnership at some point, and the two people were not working on the same thing, and definitely not working in harmony, which we're also seeing with the Three of Cups in reverse. So there is perhaps a disillusionment. I think that's what these three cards are pointing towards. Like they were only married for about a year, and this seems to be pointing towards a disillusionment in a cooperative atmosphere, or where there should have been a cooperative atmosphere. Now the next card that we have here is actually the Magician, who is of course facing the other way because it is the New Vision deck, followed by the King of Cups in reverse. Now this combination here, particularly because the Magician is facing a bunch of onlookers, and meanwhile we see the King of Cups in reverse, seems to me as manipulating the outside public. Like there are people there who are observing them from a distance, of course, which you would if you were looking at somebody else's marriage and relationship. You kind of only really see what they're showing you, and that is also exactly what I think these two cards are pointing towards, just kind of showing a certain picture and seeming to be very much in control, because of course the Magician is the one who has power over all of the suits, so they would normally appear to be perfectly in control. There is a monkey behind him, which may point towards some type of mischievous nature, or at least some type of monkey wrench situation, possibly. Like there are certain signs, perhaps if people were to look and really pay attention, they might notice that there is some monkey business. But since it is the King of Cups and is in reverse, I feel like he's actually pretty good, combined with this Magician, at keeping up appearances and making it seem like everything is fine. Now I'm automatically saying he, but it could be that both of them were kind of doing this. Like maybe there was some trouble in the marriage, but it was such a young marriage that they really didn't feel like making it everybody else's business. Perhaps they were trying to work on things privately, but this does seem to point towards at least one person making things seem better than they really were. Next row we have the Empress in reverse, so there is a lack of caring. We have a Knight of Pentacles in reverse, also not really spending our resources very wisely, wasting time and effort perhaps. There's also Temperance in reverse, so there are tempers flaring possibly. So I think this is the degeneration of the relationship, or at least the generation of the situation that they're in. The care that they would normally receive is not there. It could also be that I do believe that Rene was not his son. I don't think he was, and at least it didn't say anything about that. Had a different name from him anyway. So maybe there was a lack of caring there, and possibly just a lack of caring in general in the household for children specifically, because this reverse card, you can see that there's a couple of children sitting behind the throne of the Empress, and whom she would normally guard. I think they're being ignored, possibly just not really being wanted, and there maybe a situation of possibly one or two people in a marriage spending resources that goes against helping out children. Maybe money was being wasted on things that would not be wasted in a positive marriage with children, at least not in those types of things. Like this would be somebody spending money on things that aren't useful, like cars or expensive watches, expensive clothes, things like that. Like if you're in a relationship with small children, you know that small children really cost a lot of money, and at the very least you want to be setting money aside for when they start going to college and stuff like that. And I don't feel like this card is showing that that was happening. Now, I'm not saying that they actually bought an expensive car, jewelry, and clothes. I don't know, of course, what they were spending their money on, but it kind of looks like things were not spent in a way that would behoove somebody who has small children in the family, at least not in a caring way here with the Empress in reverse. Then we see the Temperance in reverse over here, so this may have led to Temperance flaring over this because it's fairly obvious to all involved that this is happening. So there may have been arguments possibly hidden from view. Obviously over here we're pretending that everything's fine, so they probably wouldn't do this very publicly. And most people do this, of course. Most people don't tend to show the worst parts of their relationship publicly because they don't want people to get the wrong idea. There may have been really good times as well. It doesn't always have to be bad, but it looks as though there was at least some conflict around this situation. We then have the Eight of Swords, and we have the Ace of Cups in reverse, and the Nine of Swords also in reverse. Okay. So the Eight of Swords is kind of like a mental entrapment, and we're seeing some birds in the background here. Maybe the swords were supposed to keep these birds at bay. It could be, actually what's coming to mind is that there were perhaps people in their wider circle of friends and family that were really invested in this marriage possibly. They may have in particular been telling them that they needed to stick with this and that it was going to be better in the long run and you just need to get through this, and they kind of like trap people in this mindset of, oh, I just need to work through my problems and we can make this work somehow. No matter how terrible things may be, we can make this work. Kind of like we need to just go to counseling, we need to just do this, we need to just do that. Whether these things are happening or not may not be clear, but I do feel like there may have been some people in the environment that were trying to keep them together, even though possibly there may have been some privately expressed concerns about the marriage and things that were happening within it. Ace of Cups, I think, is pointing towards possible attempts at making it work and not really at making those things happen. Possibly trying to do some counseling or just trying to talk over the situation and just putting a lot of effort into that emotionally and seeing that effort going to waste, basically. And we're worrying about this quite a bit because we have the Nine of Swords in reverse. This Nine of Swords also shows that there is some type of ghoul or thing in the background there that is floating above this person. Would have been better if this person were on the other side of the sword, so that the swords at least form some type of shield against this being, but it looks as though it's kind of like a private torture situation, like only I can deal with this person, and they're really worried about it, and they are kind of feeling lonely and literally cut off from anybody else who might be able to help them fight these inner demons possibly. So this may be coming from both sides. Maybe both of them have these experiences of, I need to sort things out, but it's so difficult, I can't rely on anybody. Could be that it's just one person who is doing these things and the other person worrying. Doesn't say who in particular. We only really have this King of Cups here in the top right as a person card. Well, you have the Empress and the Knight. I think these may be the same person. I'm leaning towards it being Alfredo doing the manipulating and Cecilia doing the worrying. With the outcome of the situation, that seems likely. Of course, we don't know anything for sure, but it kind of seems to be pointing in that direction. So that is the situation where we're starting off from. Now, what happened for her disappearance? What happened there exactly? Okay, a whole stack just fell out, but it's about 10 or 20 cards. We're not going to use all of these. Which ones do we need? That one. Oops, and those guys. And one of them is on the floor. One on the floor is the Ten of Swords, which is called Ruin, which is the next step in this row over here. So the worry that was initially just in her mind possibly now became outwardly visible, I would say. So whatever it is that they were concerned about was actually coming to fruition. We have here the Seven of Cups. Not really able to wish for anything because it is in reverse. And this card is called Debauch, which I think is the shorter version of debauchery, or perhaps indicating somebody who is susceptible to debauchery. So possibly this is pointing towards whatever it is that they were doing before. Having issues perhaps with alcohol intake is only getting worse, or at least not getting any better. Probably getting worse because we have the Ten of Swords over here. We have the journalist, which is the Prince of Wands, which in this case is the Knight of Wands. So we're taking some actions which are kind of hasty. And then we have the Prince or Knight of Cups. All right, so Knight of Cups is somebody who is fairly self-centered, focuses only on themselves, and I kind of think that this is a situation that made her disappear. It seems as though something really came to a head one day, and possibly as a result of having drank a little too much. And then we have this Knight of Wands in reverse. That means somebody taking rash, sudden actions, and then trying to make things right for themselves with the Knight of Cups there on the end. So this kind of seems like possibly... we can't, of course, make any accusations about whomever is in the relationship who would be the most likely to be drinking and then turning to violence, doing something that they really, really regretted after. Well, maybe they didn't quite regret it, but at least they regretted it for themselves, because the Knight of Cups over there focuses only on himself, and this is also called the filmmaker, which is somebody who does a lot of planning, like a director. You can see him there trying to set a scene, which also comes with props, and then the cards and the letter come to mind. So this may be them setting a scene to make it seem like there is one thing going on when possibly it is another. So possibly her disappearance has something to do with this moment of debauchery and rash actions. So I think the conflict that was brewing underneath came to a head. Maybe he didn't intend to do anything, but this possibly was a result of excessive drinking. Now, oops, here comes another card. It fell off screen. This is the Ace of Pentacles in reverse. So I think this is effort not well spent. I think this is also evident by the fact that not even the police believe that the letter was actually written by her. I think this is pointing towards a sloppy cover-up almost, if you were to call it that. Okay, there's another card jumping right off screen. Then we have the Prince or Knight of Swords. Okay, so now we are actually speaking our words here, possibly trying to come up with all sorts of excuses as to why they're not to be blamed. This card is also called the Hacker, and Hacker, of course, is somebody whom would like to find ways around things, particularly, of course, security on websites and other databases and stuff like that, but possibly also just trying to evade things, which I'm guessing is the perpetrator currently doing that in this card over here. So whoever the perpetrator is, because personally I do not believe that she actually left, so I'm definitely looking at this as a case of somebody making her disappear, and this person may have gone too far over here with the debauchery and then planning it to make themselves look innocent, or at the very least make people not suspect them. So this hacker person is trying everything they can to spin a narrative, because of course these swords are all about words and thoughts, and so they're spinning this narrative to try and elude something, or possibly also get information, because that is something that hackers do. They like to get their hands on information that is normally behind a secure wall of some sorts. And what they do with that information could be just for their own personal benefit, or they could try to spread it to others. I think in this case, possibly they may have been trying to keep tabs on law enforcement to make sure that they know exactly where law enforcement is, so they can always try to be one step ahead, that type of thing. It may also suggest that they may be talking to somebody, and they have this person kind of on their side, that they may be able to get some information from the inside through this other person. Doesn't quite say that, but that may be an option. Now, is this person ever going to get caught? Oh, smaller stack fell out the bottom there. 3 cards here and 1 card here. Okay, so they are definitely worried about getting caught, because we have the 5 of Pentacles over here. They're probably living with this and possibly looking over their shoulder. That's kind of the impression that I'm getting here. Yeah, whatever joy they may have had is quickly going away, or has already gone. Also kind of looking at the statue in the background, and this child is running away from this statue, so it's kind of looking like maybe they're also thinking about the unborn child, whom also sadly was the victim of this crime, and how they're never actually going to have them in their life. Then we have here the Fool. Okay, so we're just kind of doing whatever it is that comes to mind naturally. And the Six of Wands. So maybe they feel like they are at least victorious in a sense. They're just kind of like flying by the seat of their pants, letting the universe take them where it may, and possibly feeling like they're going to get away with it, which is a possibility if they haven't been able to catch them so far. Are we ever going to find anything of Cecilia or Rene? Because neither of them have ever been found. Let's see what we can find about that. Oh, that one just hopped right off. Okay, so they're pretty well hidden. There is a person coming out of the water towards these creatures over here that are baying at the moon. Also, there's a ring of, I think there's swallows flying from one tower to the next. That's also interesting to note. But I think this means that whatever happened to Cecilia and Rene, they're probably not going to be found for any time soon. It may also mean that there are more people involved that actually know a thing or two. May even be a whole string of people involved, and they may have connections, because it kind of looks like a connection from one tower to the other. And this also calls to mind the tower card itself, like maybe that connection is what's keeping this secret hidden. There is somebody walking toward them, so that is interesting. Maybe there is somebody who kind of wants to step out of line, and they might do so at some point. Let's see if we can find anything about that, because so far it looks as though it is a well-hidden secret which may involve several people, actually. That one. This is Knave of Wands, so the Page of Wands. Okay, so somebody who is fairly quick to act, may act rashly. There is a person walking away from them with the light, so it could be that as soon as somebody turns their back, there may be somebody else who will step out of line and possibly be the person that is approaching the dogs and the crab over there, or lobster. I think it's a lobster down there in the card of the moon, and possibly try to do something, because it is a wands card. They might drop a hint, they might go visit somebody, they might visit the perpetrator as well, to kind of like say, hey, watch out because we're still here, and try not to do anything too foolish. Remember that we're here, that type of thing. That one kind of just slid out of my hand, but okay. Will do. I wanted to grab it like this, but I guess since I flipped it as I picked it up, we might want to read it as kind of half and half, upright or not. So there may be some type of, I think this is pointing towards some type of bribe situation. This is the Four of Pentacles. We're looking at the back of this person. They're kind of looking at this mountain as though they have a mountain of debt that they're trying to navigate, and they might not ever be able to do so successfully. So they may be kind of like relying on the generosity and patience of others to keep things hidden, to keep things the way they are. And this person on the left may be there to remind them of that as well. Like, hey, you know, as soon as you think you're done, think again, because you have all this debt out here. You have this person waiting for something. You have that person who wants you to do certain things, stuff like that. He may actually be having to work for them to some capacity. Oop, there's this one. All right, so that is definitely not going to be a good investment in the long run. I think that eventually he's going to lose whatever silence he's managed to buy from certain people, and they might decide to speak up, or they might bide their time, and as soon as he does something that they don't like, they might be right on his case, and then he might become well known, or at least the jig might be up. Let's see if we actually see any type of jail time or something like that for our perpetrator here. Okay, we're not getting much of a response from this one. Let's go back to the Urban Tarot. Oh, they always gotta be on the floor. Two of Swords. Okay, so there may be some type of tenuous peace here. The card is called Peace. The Two of Swords is being of two minds, so it could go this way, could go that way. I always notice with this card that we are actually inside of a fenced area. I did ask if he was going to do some jail time. There may actually be something to that. I think on the one hand, it kind of points towards he's kind of already in some type of jail because he's stuck with the knowledge of his deeds, but I also get this impression that if he does ever end up in jail, it might actually be a good thing for him, because there might be people out there that want to do something to him if he steps out of line. So maybe jail could be a safer option for them. I feel like this may be them doubting whether they should turn themselves in or not, and what the benefits or the bad things about that would be. So he may actually end up eventually confessing to get away from other people. Like maybe he thinks that jail is a safer location if XYZ situation were ever to come true, that he might be worried about happening, or this person or that person coming for him. He might be better off in some type of facility rather than walking around where anybody can get to him, that type of thing. Now, he probably is aware that if somebody really wants to get to him, then even jail won't be safe for him. Matter of fact, he would probably be a sitting duck. So I feel like there is this doubt going back and forth whether he should or shouldn't confess, and that's also kind of keeping him trapped. I think since we're not getting a whole lot more cards at the moment, that this is it for now. So it looks as though there was a moment of rash actions due to potential substance abuse, and that was followed by trying to make things go away as quickly as possible, which they may have used certain people for in order to achieve that, whom are now kind of weighing on his mind heavily, leaving them to worry and also wonder whether turning themselves in might not be the best thing for them to do. I don't see anything about finding anything of Cecilia or Rene. The moon seems to be hinting towards there just being like not much of a chance of that happening. But we might find out what happened to them, even if we don't find anything of Cecilia at some point, or Rene, because we shouldn't forget about him either. So that is what I'm seeing for Cecilia and Rene. I hope you found it interesting. Make sure to leave a like and a comment. That really helps the channel along. If you want to see more of these videos, of course, make sure to subscribe. In any case, I hope to see you in another video. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye for now.